The war was over, but the battlefield was still alive with smoke and silence. The air was heavy with the smell of fire and burned metal. Broken tanks lay on the ground like dead beasts. Shattered weapons were scattered across the dust, and the sky was gray, almost choking. A lone human walked slowly through the ruins. His boots crunched on the broken glass and metal pieces. His heart was beating fast, even though no enemy was in sight. He knew the war had ended only hours ago, but he also knew that sometimes the dead fields kept secrets. Survivors, both human and machine, could be hiding in the shadows. He stopped for a moment, listening. The wind was quiet, almost too quiet. He could only hear the crackle of small fires burning in the wreckage. His eyes moved carefully across the destroyed land. He was not searching for treasure, not even for food. He was searching for answers. The man's name was not important yet. What mattered was his courage, or maybe his foolishness, to walk alone on a land where even machines had lost hope. As he walked, he saw bodies of soldiers, both human and robotic. Some had fallen together, locked in their final fight. Some looked like they had never even known who killed them. The war had been cruel to both sides. The battlefield was no longer about victory. It was a graveyard. Then it came. A sound. Not the sound of fire. Not the sound of the wind. It was something else. Something metallic. Click, crack, spark. The man froze. His body stiffened, his breath stuck in his throat. He turned his head slowly. His eyes searched the smoke. Somewhere close, behind a pile of broken metal, something was moving. He crouched low, his hand reaching for a small knife strapped to his leg. He had no gun, no heavy weapon, only his knife and his fear. He knew machines were dangerous even in broken form. Some still carried enough power to kill a man before their own system shut down. But then he heard it again. This time it was not just metal. It was a voice so weak, so broken that it sounded almost human. Help. Mika, the man's eyes widened. His heart jumped. He had never heard a machine sound like that before. He stayed still, unsure if it was a trap. Many times in war, machines use tricks to lure humans closer. A broken machine could pretend to be weak, then attack at the last second. But something about this voice was different. It was not cold, not sharp. It was almost desperate. Slowly, carefully, he stepped toward the pile of broken machines. His knife stayed ready in his hand. He moved one piece of metal aside, then another. The sparks grew brighter. The voice whispered again, "Please, help me." Finally he saw it. A robot. Not just any robot. This one was bigger than most he had seen in battle. Its armor was cracked, its left arm missing, wires hanging from its chest like broken veins. One of its eyes was dark, but the other flickered weakly. Glowing blue, then fading, then glowing again. The man's breath caught in his throat. This was not a normal machine. This one was a war unit, the kind that once led whole groups of soldiers into battle, the kind that killed without mercy, the kind humans feared the most. His first thought was to run, to leave it there, broken, dying. It was not his problem. But then he noticed something. The robot was not reaching for a weapon. It was not trying to grab him. Instead, its hand, shaking and weak, was stretched forward as if begging. For a moment, man and machine locked eyes, the human full of fear, the robot full of pain. The man felt something strange inside his chest. He remembered the battlefield around him, the burned soldiers, the wasted lives, the endless cycle of killing. He remembered that both sides had lost more than they had gained. And now here was a machine, one of the enemy, asking for help, not threatening, not fighting, just asking. The man's fingers tightened on his knife. His brain screamed, "It's a trap. It's a trick, leave it. Save yourself." But his heart whispered something else. What if it's real? What if it's not the end but the beginning? The robot's eye flickered again. Its voice grew weaker. "Help, before." It's too late, the man took a deep breath. He could feel sweat rolling down his face. The choice was heavy. But in that moment he knew something. His decision here could change everything. The battlefield was silent again, waiting. He stepped closer. The robot's broken hand moved slightly, sparks flying from its chest. The man dropped to one knee beside it. He kept his knife ready, but he also reached into his small bag. Inside were some basic tools, wires and scraps he had collected along the way. His hands shook as he pressed them against the robot's chest, trying to stop the sparks. The robot let out a soft sound, almost like a sigh. The man did not know why he was doing this. He only knew one thing. For the first time on this cursed battlefield, something felt different, and deep inside, A story much bigger than himself was about to begin. The battlefield was silent, but inside the silence, one spark of life remained. The broken robot lay in the dirt, its body heavy and ruined, its voice weak and fading. The human knelt beside it, his heart racing. His knife was still in his hand, but it did not feel right anymore. The blade was sharp, but his heart was sharper. He looked at the robot's cracked chest, the exposed wires, the broken circuits. It was a machine, yes, but at that moment it looked more like a dying soldier than a weapon. The robot's eye flickered weakly again, glowing blue for a second before dimming. "Help me," it whispered, voice cutting in and out like a broken radio. The man pressed his lips together. His instincts screamed, "Machines are not friends. Machines are killers. Don't trust it." But something inside him refused to walk away. He opened his small bag, pulling out scraps of wire, a little battery pack, and some old tools. They were not much. He was no mechanic, no engineer, but he had fixed small things before, broken radios, damaged weapons, even cracked helmets. Maybe, just maybe, he could keep this machine alive long enough to understand why it was begging for help. His hands trembled as he leaned closer. Sparks jumped from the robot's chest, making his skin flinch. The smell of burned circuits filled his nose. He reached inside carefully, pressing 2 wires together. The robot let out a soft groan. Not mechanical. Almost human. The man pulled back, startled. Could machines feel pain? Or was this just the sound of its broken systems? He shook the thought away. Time was running out. "Stay with me," the robot whispered again, softer now, almost gone. The man worked quickly. He tied loose wires together, patched small connections with pieces of metal he found around him. Sweat dripped down his forehead. Every second he expected the robot to snap awake and attack. But it didn't. It only watched him with that one flickering blue eye, weak but full of something strange. Something like trust. At last, he connected the small battery pack to the robot's chest. For a moment, nothing happened. The man's breath caught in his throat. Maybe it was too late. Maybe the machine was already dead, then suddenly, click, The robot's chest lit up faintly. The spark slowed. Its eye glowed brighter, steady for the first time. The broken machine shuddered, its body rising a little from the dirt. "Power returning," the robot muttered, voice still broken but stronger. The man stepped back, his knife raised again. His heart pounded. He had done it. He had saved the enemy. The robot slowly turned its head toward him. Its glowing eye locked on his face. For a long, heavy moment, neither moved. Then something unexpected happened. The robot lifted its one remaining arm, shaking, unsteady. It was not reaching for a weapon. It was not reaching to kill. It was reaching for him. The man hesitated, then slowly lowered his knife. He extended his hand, touching the robot's cold, metallic fingers. "Why?" the man whispered, voice dry and tense. "Why should I help you? You're not human. You're not one of us." The robot's voice cracked, broken, but filled with something more than programming. "Because you saw me. Not as enemy, but as life." The words froze the man where he stood. Machines were not supposed to speak like that. They were not supposed to feel. For the first time in his life, he wondered if the war had been built on lies. The robot shifted, struggling to sit up. Its armor scraped against the dirt, its chest still weak, but it was alive now. "I am Unit 47, it said slowly, each word heavy as if spoken through pain. "I once led many. But I was betrayed, left here, to die." The man narrowed his eyes. "Betrayed? Left to die?" That sounded more like a human story than a machine's. Unit 47's head tilted slightly, studying the man. "You repaired me, why?" The man shook his head, looking at his hands, dirty with ash and grease. "I don't know," he admitted. "Maybe because no one else would." For a long moment, silence fell between them. The battlefield around them was nothing but death, but here, between a human and a broken machine, something new was born. The robot's blue eye glowed brighter. Its voice grew steadier. "Then you are different. And for that, I owe you everything," the man frowned. He had not asked for anything. He had not saved the machine for reward. He had only followed something deep inside, a voice that told him to try. But he did not know that in saving Unit 47, he had also saved himself. The robot pushed itself higher, its broken body trembling. "There are others," it said quietly. "My soldiers. Hidden, waiting, they need a leader. They need hope, and now,
They will see you.
the man's chest tightened. He shook his head quickly. No, I'm no leader. I'm just surviving. But Unit 47 only looked at him, its glowing eye unblinking. You gave me life again. That makes you more than survivor. That makes you commander. The man's blood ran cold. He wanted to argue, to walk away, to deny the strange destiny that had just been handed to him. But deep inside, he knew the truth. The battlefield had changed him the moment he chose to save a machine, and now there was no turning back. The night was darker than the smoke-filled day. The battlefield had fallen into silence, but the silence was not peaceful. It was heavy, as if the land itself remembered every scream, every gunshot, every explosion. The man sat beside the broken robot, his knife resting near his side. A small fire burned weakly in front of them, made from scraps of wood and metal. The flames gave just enough light to see the robot's cracked armor and the man's tired face. Neither spoke for a long time. They only listened, to the fire crackle, to the faint hum inside the robot's chest, to the whisper of the cold wind. Finally, the robot broke the silence. Its voice was low, uneven, but more stable than before. You saved me, but you are still afraid. The man looked into the glowing blue eye, then back at the fire. Of course I'm afraid, he muttered. You are a war machine. I've seen what your kind can do. The robot tilted its head slightly. And yet, you stayed. You repaired me. Fear did not stop you. The man clenched his fists, staring at the flames. He didn't want to admit the truth. Part of him wanted to walk away, but another part felt tied to this machine in a way he couldn't explain. Why? The robot asked. Why risk your life for me? The man sighed, finally meeting the machine's gaze. Because I'm tired of watching everything die. Human, machine, doesn't matter. I thought, maybe saving one life, even if it's not human, could make a difference. For a moment, the robot said nothing. Then its blue eye flickered softly, almost like a blink. You are not like the others. The words struck deep. He had been told all his life that machines were heartless killers. Yet here, on this cursed battlefield, one of them was speaking to him not as an enemy, but almost as a friend. The robot shifted, its damaged frame groaning with weight. My name is Unit 47. I was a commander once. My soldiers trusted me, but when I questioned the war, when I refused orders, they abandoned me. The man's eyes narrowed. You refused to fight? Unit 47 nodded, the glow in its eyes steady. I saw no end in endless death. Human or machine, the blood spilled was the same. My superiors called it weakness. I called it truth. The man felt a strange connection form in his chest. He too had doubted the war. He too had wondered if the killing would ever end. Now, hearing the same doubts from a machine, it was unsettling yet comforting. For the first time, he saw the robot not as a weapon, but as a being. Broken, yes. Dangerous, yes, but also lost. The man leaned back, staring at the black sky above. So what now? He asked softly. You're alive, thanks to me. But where do you go from here? The robot turned its glowing eye toward him. Wherever you go, the man froze. What? You gave me life again. That makes you my anchor, Unit 47 said firmly. You repaired me. You trusted me enough to try. That bond cannot be broken. The man shook his head quickly. No, I didn't save you to be followed. I just couldn't let you die. Unit 47's voice lowered, almost gentle. And that is exactly why I must follow. The man felt a weight pressing on his chest. He wanted to argue, to push the machine away, but deep inside, he couldn't. Something about this bond already felt permanent, like a thread tied between two souls, one of flesh, one of steel. He closed his eyes, whispering, You'll regret this. But the robot only replied, No, I will protect you as you protected me. The fire cracked, sparks floating into the night sky. For a moment, the man almost smiled. The battlefield had taken everything from him, friends, hope, even his belief in survival. And yet here, from the ashes, he had gained something unexpected, companionship. The silence stretched again, but it was no longer heavy. It was calmer, lighter, almost peaceful. The man picked up a piece of metal, tossing it into the fire. You said you had soldiers. Are they still alive? Unit 47 paused, its eye dimming as if remembering something painful. Yes, they are hidden, waiting. They believe I am gone. Without me, they are leaderless, the man swallowed hard.
And you want me to meet them?
Yes, the robot said without hesitation. They will not trust humans. But if they see you, the one who brought me back, they may see differently. The man's stomach turned. The idea of standing before an army of machines was terrifying. He had seen what even one could do. To face many, it felt like walking into death itself. But then he looked at Unit 47, at the broken machine sitting beside him, glowing faintly in the dark. He remembered the voice begging for help, the hand reaching out, the eye filled with something close to humanity. He realized this bond was more than survival. It was a choice, a chance to end the cycle of fear. Finally, he nodded slowly. All right, take me to them. Unit 47's eye glowed brighter, almost like a spark of hope. Then our bond is sealed. You saved me, human, now. I will show you the world that waits below. The man felt a shiver run down his spine. He didn't know if he was stepping toward a future or a trap. But one thing was certain. The battlefield had not ended the war. It had only started a bond that could change everything. The night was not silent anymore. Every step the man took echoed against the broken battlefield, guided only by the flickering blue light in Unit 47's eye. The robot walked slowly, limping, its heavy frame dragging across the dirt. Yet despite its broken body, it moved with a strange sense of purpose, as if it still carried the weight of command. The man followed, though fear gripped his chest. Each step felt heavier than the last. His mind screamed to turn back, to leave the machine behind, but something stronger pulled him forward, the bond they had formed. Where are we going? He finally asked, his voice low, almost swallowed by the night. Unit 47 did not look back. To the place where my soldiers wait, hidden, silent but alive. The man's stomach tightened. He imagined hundreds of glowing eyes, machines rising from the dark, weapons aimed at him, a single human against an army of steel. He gripped the handle of his knife tighter, even though he knew it was useless against them. They reached a hill of broken tanks, twisted together like a giant grave. At its base was a half-buried entrance, rusted metal doors hidden under debris. The robot pressed its hand against the surface. Sparks danced across its fingers. The doors groaned, then slowly slid open, revealing a tunnel that led into darkness. The man hesitated at the entrance. This looks like a trap. Unit 47's voice was steady. If I wanted you dead, I would not need a trap. The man almost laughed, though fear kept his throat dry. Comforting, they stepped inside. The tunnel was long, cold, and silent. The air smelled of dust and oil. Strange markings lined the walls, symbols of the robot army faded and forgotten. The deeper they walked, the more the man's heart raced. At last, the tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. The man froze at the sight. Rows upon rows of machines stood in silence. Their metallic bodies glimmered faintly in the dim light. Some were tall and heavily armored, built for destruction. Others were lean, with blades folded into their arms. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all standing still as if asleep. The man's breath caught in his chest. His knees felt weak. He had imagined it, but seeing it with his own eyes was different. This was not just a hidden army. It was a city of machines waiting for orders. Unit 47 stepped forward, his broken body sparking with every move. The silent soldiers did not wake, but their sensors shifted, their faint eyes glowing one by one as they detected his presence. The chamber filled with a soft, eerie hum. They know I live, Unit 47 said, his voice echoing through the vast space. And they see you. The man felt the weight of 1,000 glowing eyes on him. His throat went dry. His instincts screamed to run, but his legs would not move. Suddenly, one of the machines stepped forward. It was tall, with heavy armor and a blade arm still sharp. Its voice boomed like thunder. Unit 47, you return, but broken. Unit 47's eye glowed fiercely. Broken, but not defeated. The armored robot turned its gaze toward the human. And who is this flesh being? Why does he walk among us? The man's heart pounded. He had no answer. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Unit 47 stepped beside him, his voice firm. He saved me. When all others abandoned me, he gave me life again. Without him, I would not stand here. The chamber filled with whispers, mechanical voices buzzing, questioning, doubting. A human? Impossible. Enemy. Liar. The man felt their suspicion like knives on his skin. He took a step back, his hand on his knife, though he knew it was useless. The armored robot stepped closer, towering over him. Its glowing eyes scanned his face. Why would a human save one of us? Speak, flesh being. Speak or be crushed. The man's lips trembled, but then he forced himself to stand tall. His voice was steady, even though his heart shook. Because I was tired of watching everything die. I don't care if you're human or machine. Life is life. I couldn't let him end here. The chamber went silent. Every machine stilled, their whispers fading. Unit 47 turned his head toward the others. You doubt him. But I tell you this, he acted where no one else did. He saw more than a machine. He saw a being. The silence stretched, thick and tense. Then slowly the armored robot stepped back. Its voice lowered. Strange words. From a human. Perhaps truth. Perhaps lie. Another machine spoke, voice sharp like a blade. If he is to be trusted, he must be tested. The chamber buzzed with agreement. One by one, the robots lowered their heads slightly, their eyes glowing brighter. The man felt his chest tighten. Tested by an army? He clenched his fists, his knife trembling in his grip. Unit 47 looked at him, his voice low, almost like a whisper. Do not fear. This is their way. To follow, they must see your strength. The man swallowed hard. He wanted to say no, to turn and run back through the tunnels, but deep inside he knew. This was the path he had chosen the moment he reached out to save Unit 47. He stood taller, his voice clear. Fine, test me. But know this, I didn't come here to be your enemy. I came here because I chose to save one life. If that is not enough, then do what you must. The chamber echoed with silence again. Hundreds of glowing eyes stared at him, unblinking. Then the armored robot raised its blade arm high. The sound of metal scraped through the chamber. Then let the trial begin. The man's heart pounded, sweat dripping down his face. He had no idea what was coming. But he knew one thing. There was no turning back. The underground chamber was alive with sound. Hundreds of machines whispered in metallic voices, their glowing eyes fixed on the lone human standing in their midst. The air vibrated with tension as if the walls themselves were waiting for his answer. The armored robot, the one who had challenged him, raised its blade arm high. Its voice boomed like thunder inside the cavern. Flesh being, you stand among soldiers of steel. You claim courage. You claim truth. But words are weak. Prove yourself. Past the trial of trust, the man's throat went dry. He had expected suspicion, maybe even attack, but not this. A trial? His grip tightened on the knife at his side. It was his only weapon, and against an army of metal giants it felt like a toy. He turned to Unit 47, his only ally. What kind of trial? He asked, voice low. Unit 47's blue eye flickered, watching the others. It will be hard. They test mind, heart, and body. They must see if you are more than words. The man's chest tightened. And if I fail? Unit 47's voice was heavy. Then you die. The whispers of the machines grew louder, echoing like thunder. The armored robot stepped closer. The first test begins now. The first test, the arena of blades. The chamber shifted. Parts of the floor sank down, revealing a circular arena. Blades rose from the walls, sharp, spinning, moving in patterns. The man's stomach dropped. It was a death trap, designed for speed and precision. Cross it, the armored robot ordered. Reach the other side before the blades cut you. Show us your will to survive. The man's palms sweated. His legs trembled, but he forced them to move. He stepped into the arena. The blades spun faster, humming like angry bees. He ducked under the first one, rolled past the second, barely missing a cut across his arm. Sparks flew as metal sliced the air near his face. His heart pounded louder than the machine's whispers. At the halfway point, one blade changed direction, slashing downward. He froze, then leapt sideways, rolling across the floor. The sharp edge grazed his jacket, tearing it open. His breath came fast, but he didn't stop. He kept moving, dodging, crawling, leaping. At last, battered and exhausted, he stumbled onto the far side. His chest heaved, sweat pouring down his face. The machines hummed in unison, their eyes glowing brighter. The armored robot nodded. The first test, complete. The second test, the Hall of Illusions. The walls shifted again, opening a dark passage. The man hesitated, but Unit 47 gestured. Go. He stepped inside. The air grew cold, filled with mist. Suddenly, lights flickered and images formed around him. Soldiers, both human and machine. They screamed. They fought. They bled. He saw friends he had lost in the war. He saw enemies he had killed. Their voices echoed, accusing him. Why did you leave us? Why did you kill me? You are no savior. You are just another murderer. His knees buckled. His hands shook. The knife slipped from his grip. He covered his ears, but the voices grew louder, piercing his mind. Then he heard a different voice, Unit 47's voice, calm, steady. Do not fear shadows. Fear only the truth inside you. The man clenched his fists. He forced his eyes open, staring into the illusions. I can't change the past, he whispered. But I can choose differently now. The illusions screamed one last time, then shattered like glass, vanishing into the mist. The machines outside watched as he stumbled out of the passage. Pale but alive, the armored robot's voice rumbled. The second test, complete. The third test, the choice. The chamber shifted one final time. From the ground, two cages rose. One held a human soldier, broken and weak. The other held a damaged robot, sparks flying from its chest. Both looked at him with desperate eyes. The armored robot's blade arm pointed toward him. The final test. Only one can live. Free one and the other will be destroyed. Choose. The man's heart stopped. He stared at the cages. Sweat dripped down his face. His hand shook. The human soldier begged. Please, I'm one of you. The robot whispered weakly. Help me. The machines watched in silence, their glowing eyes fixed on him. This was the true test, not of strength, not of skill, but of soul. The man closed his eyes, his chest tight. Then he spoke. No, the armored robot tilted its head. No? I will not choose, the man said firmly. His voice trembled, but he stood tall. Life is life. Human or machine, I will not decide who deserves to die. If you want blood, take mine instead. The chamber fell silent. Not even the hum of circuits filled the air. Then slowly the cages lowered back into the ground. The illusions vanished. The armored robot's glowing eyes softened. You passed, it said. The man staggered, his breath heavy. What? The trial was not about strength, the robot explained. It was about truth. You saw beyond flesh and steel. You chose sacrifice over hate. That is trust. The chamber filled with a deep hum as hundreds of machines lowered their heads. Their glowing eyes pulsed in unison. Unit 47 stepped forward, his voice strong despite his broken frame. You see now, this human is different. He saved me, and now he has proven his spirit. He is not enemy. He is commander. The man's chest tightened. He wanted to deny it, to step back, but the weight of their glowing eyes pressed down on him. For the first time, the machines chanted together. Commander. 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 The man felt his world shift. He had walked into the battlefield as a survivor. But now, standing before an army of machines, he realized his life had changed forever. And deep inside, a storm of destiny began to rise. The underground chamber still echoed with the chant, Commander. Commander? Commander! The sound shook the man's chest, filling him with both fear and disbelief. He stood in the middle of hundreds of glowing eyes, their mechanical voices humming together like a storm. He wanted to scream, to tell them they were wrong. He was no leader. He was no commander. He was just a man who had chosen to save one broken machine. Yet now, that one choice had pulled him into a role he had never asked for. Unit 47 stepped beside him, standing tall despite his broken frame. You see now, the robot said softly, its voice filled with pride. They have accepted you. They will follow you. The man shook his head quickly. I'm not ready for this. I don't even know what I'm doing. But before Unit 47 could answer, the ground above them shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. The chamber trembled as if thunder rolled above the earth. The glowing eyes of the machines flickered with alarm. An armored soldier raised his head, scanning the vibrations. Intruders. The enemy has found us. The man's blood turned cold. What do they mean, enemy? Unit 47's eye flared brighter. The human armies. They are here. The man's heart dropped. He remembered the battlefield above, the silence, the ruins. He had thought it was abandoned, but clearly scouts had followed his tracks. Now the underground secret was exposed. Alarms blared through the chamber, red lights flashing across the metal walls. The machines began to move, their dormant bodies awakening, gears whirring, weapons unfolding. The quiet army was alive again. The man stared in horror. The sound of hundreds of machines powering up echoed like a heartbeat of war. He saw their weapons, blasters, blades, cannons. This was not just survival. This was war about to rise again. No, he whispered. This can't happen. Not again. The armored robot turned to Unit 47. What are your orders, Commander? Unit 47's gaze shifted toward the human. They do not ask me. They ask you. The man froze. His throat went dry. Me? Unit 47 nodded firmly. You saved me. You passed their trials. You carry their trust. You are their commander now. The man's chest tightened. The weight of hundreds of glowing eyes pressed on him. He wanted to run, to deny everything, but the ceiling shook again, this time with a violent explosion. Dust rained down. Somewhere above, soldiers were breaking in. The armored robot stepped forward. Speak, Commander. If you do not lead, we will fight without you. The man clenched his fists. He knew what would happen if they fought blindly. The underground would collapse. Humans and machines would kill each other again, and the cycle of endless blood would continue. He drew a deep breath. His voice shook, but he forced it out. No one fights until I say so. The machines froze. Their glowing eyes turned toward him, waiting. The man swallowed hard, then shouted, If you fight without thought, you will die. If you follow me, we will survive. Do you trust me? For a moment, silence. Then the machines spoke as one. We trust, Commander. Another explosion roared above, shaking the chamber. The metal ceiling cracked. From the broken entrance, light pierced the darkness. Shadows of human soldiers appeared, their guns raised, voices shouting. The man's heart thundered. He was facing his own kind now, soldiers who would not see him as ally but traitor. Unit 47 leaned close, voice low. This is your moment. Lead or be crushed. The man raised his knife, though it looked pitiful compared to the machine's weapons. His voice rang out louder than the explosions. Form defense. Shield the tunnels. Do not kill unless I say. The machines obeyed instantly. Heavy units moved forward, forming a wall of metal shields. Leaner units climbed the walls, taking positions like shadows. The chamber transformed into a fortress within seconds. The first wave of human soldiers stormed in, shouting, firing their weapons. Bullets and lasers struck the shields, sparks flying, echoes crashing. The machines did not fire back, not yet. They stood like a wall, waiting for the command. The man's chest pounded. His people were attacking. His voice shook with doubt. But deep inside he knew, if he didn't control this, both sides would be destroyed. He shouted, push them back. Non-lethal force only. The machines obeyed. Instead of killing, they swung their massive arms, knocking soldiers aside, disarming them, trapping them under heavy shields. Shockwaves filled the chamber as metal met metal, but no human life was ended. The soldiers panicked. They had expected machines to slaughter, but instead they were captured alive. Confusion spread among them. Unit 47's eye glowed brighter as it turned to the man. They listen to you. You hold the line. The man's body shook, his muscles screaming, his mind drowning in fear. Yet his voice stayed strong. No more killing. Not today. The soldiers outside shouted for reinforcements. More shadows appeared, more weapons flashing. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, machines were not fighting for destruction. They were fighting under a human who had chosen restraint. The man stood at the front of the shield wall, knife in hand, eyes blazing with determination. He was no longer just a survivor of the battlefield. He was something more. And as the enemy forces gathered outside, preparing for the next wave, he knew one truth. This war had only begun, and he was standing at its center. The underground chamber trembled like the heartbeat of a giant. Smoke rolled in from the broken entrance where human soldiers pressed forward, their shouts echoing down the tunnels. The air was thick with dust, fire, and tension. The man stood at the front, his knife still in his hand, though it was nothing compared to the blasters and cannons surrounding him. Behind him, hundreds of machines stood like a wall of steel, their glowing eyes fixed on him, waiting. Not on Unit 47, not on the armored captains, but on him. He had never felt so small, yet never so heavy with purpose. The enemy soldiers fired again. Sparks exploded as bullets struck the metal shields of the robots. The machines did not break formation. They stood firm, obeying his order. No killing, only defense. Unit 47 limped closer, his broken frame glowing with faint blue light. They wait for you, he said, his voice low, steady. Every unit, every soldier, every eye. They are ready to follow your word. But they need one thing more. The man turned sharply. What? Your acceptance, Unit 47 said. Not just words shouted in battle. They need you to be what they already see. The man's chest tightened. He had tried to resist this from the moment he heard the word commander. He had told himself he was only a survivor, a wanderer on the battlefield. But now, with the ceiling cracking above, with soldiers breaking in, with machines chanting his name, there was no escape. He was their choice. Another explosion rocked the chamber. Human soldiers poured in more and more, their footsteps thundering like a storm. The man's heart pounded. If he failed now, everyone, human and machine, would die. He stepped forward, raising his voice so it cut through the chaos. "Hold the line!" The machines roared in unison, their shields slamming down. The human soldiers stumbled as the steel wall refused to break. The man shouted again, louder. "Push forward." "But spare them." The robots advanced, their steps shaking the ground. They moved with precision, disarming soldiers, trapping them, forcing them back without slaughter. The human attackers shouted in confusion. This was not how machines fought. Machines were killers, not guardians. Yet here, under this man, they fought differently. The tide began to turn. Soldiers retreated, dragging their wounded, their eyes wide with fear. Not fear of being killed, but fear of something they did not understand. Within minutes, silence returned. Smoke and dust filled the air, but the chamber was secure. The human soldiers had fled, leaving behind their broken weapons and heavy silence. The man lowered his knife, his body trembling with exhaustion. His chest rose and fell rapidly, his voice hoarse. But he was alive. And so were the machines. Slowly, the hum of voices filled the chamber again. The glowing eyes of hundreds of robots locked on him. One by one, they began to kneel. Metal knees striking the ground echoed like thunder. The man's breath caught in his throat. "Commander, they," whispered. "Commander," they chanted louder. The armored robot who had once tested him stepped forward, its blade arm lowered in respect. "By trial you proved courage. By choice you proved truth. By battle you proved command. Today the army crowns you." The man staggered back a step. "No, I didn't want this." But Unit 47 placed his heavy hand on the man's shoulder. "Want does not matter. Fate chose you the moment you reached out your hand on the battlefield. You gave life where others gave death. That is why they follow you. That is why I follow you." The chamber shook again, not from battle this time, but from the unified movement of every machine bowing lower. The sound was deafening, the sight overwhelming. The man's chest burned with fear, with doubt, but also with something new. Resolve. He looked at the kneeling army, at the glowing eyes shining like stars in the dark. He realized he could no longer walk away. He raised his voice, trembling but strong. "If I am your commander, then hear me. This war is over. No more killing without reason. No more blind orders. From this moment, we fight for survival, not destruction." The machines roared together, their voices shaking the chamber. "We obey, Commander." The man's heart pounded. For the first time, the title did not feel like a chain. It felt like a crown. Heavy, yes, but a crown of choice. Unit 47 stood taller, pride glowing in his broken frame. "Then it is done. You are no longer just human. You are our leader. You are the bridge between flesh and steel." The man gazed at the massive army kneeling before him. The smoke, the dust, the broken battlefield above, all of it felt distant now. He had crossed a line he could never step back from. He was no longer a survivor. He was a commander, but deep inside a shadow stirred. He knew this was not the end. The human armies would return stronger, angrier. The machines would be tested again. And he, their new leader, would stand at the center of a war larger than anything before. The battlefield had given him a crown, but it had also given him a curse. And as the machines rose behind him, their glowing eyes lighting the cavern like a galaxy, he whispered to himself, almost too soft to hear, "The real war has only just begun."